Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the March 10th of the Steamship Authority's Port Council meeting. My thanks to everyone for the flexibility in moving the meeting from its original scheduled time last Tuesday and for the slightly later start than we usually do. I know that might create some conflicts for a couple of councilors the longer we go, so we'll try to be expeditious as we go through the agenda. I will start by reading the standard announcements. The first, I'd like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. If there's anyone making an audio recording of today's meeting, if so, please identify yourself. If you're joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you are joining by telephone, pressing *9 on your keypad. When you're recognized, please state your name for the record. Anyone else reporting?
Yeah. Louisa?
I'd like to inform everyone that I am Louisa Huffstadter from the Vineyard Gazette. Good morning.
Thank you. Tony?
Iyanough from the Abbey Times.
Thank you. Kai? Kai, can you identify yourself just for the record? Well, he's Kai Quigley with
Yeah,
the fire.
duly noted.
I know who he is. So.
For the record.
Yeah.
Good enough. And then the second statement is concerning remote participation pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended. Some Port Council members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All Port Council members in attendance and all members participating in the meeting by Zoom video conferencing app will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. And we will start that roll call vote by calling in the members. I'll start in the room. Revenue.
Morning.
Morning. Joe Leader. Yeah. And online, Nat Lowell.
Here.
Don Cahill.
Here.
Greg Egan.
Here.
Eric Dwicky.
Here.
And Gordon Carr is here. Thank you, everybody. We've got a full complement this morning, which is great. Let's go ahead on to the approval of two sets of minutes that were distributed. The first is the approval of the January 20th, 2026. That was the joint meeting in public session with the board. And this, Terry, can I do the vote at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second is the approval of the minutes from the February 3rd, 2026 meeting in public session. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Joe, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. We'll go in the same order. Rob?
Junior, aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
John?
I'll say aye, but I have a question. Were all participants that were here today were at both of those meetings?
Well, I'm not sure if everybody was at both of those meetings. It's been my tradition, my understanding of the approval of minutes that as long as there's a quorum of those that were in the meeting, any member is able to approve them, but I don't know if that's necessarily the policy. That's our policy on the planning board and not my commission, but I don't know if that's the case here.
Okay, hold on.
Well, if you were not in attendance, you would abstain, but it's a few.
Okay. Well, I think we have a form of those over there. So I'm sorry, John.
Cahill, aye.
Good enough. Greg?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I too am an aye. Excellent. On to the treasurer's report, huh?
Morning, everyone. So we get the business summary for the month of January. Okay, so passengers combined for both routes were down 5.9% or just under 7,800 passengers, with the Vineyard route being down 8,900 passengers and the Nantucket route being up 1,167 passengers. Again, all these traffic statistics are one way. Vehicles, passenger vehicles or vehicles carried under 20 feet in overall length the month of January. The Vineyard route was down 4.8% with all categories being down. The total 1,347 vehicles, while the Nantucket route was up 4.9% at 226 vehicles, with the only category being down was minor in the excursion fare trucks. Putting this together, both routes combined for the month of January down 3.4% or 1,100 vehicles. Freight vehicles for the month of January were down combined 6.5% for both routes. The Nantucket route was up marginally at 13 vehicles or 0.6%, while the Vineyard route was down 439 vehicles, 10.2%. Cars parked, both routes were down 17.9%. And granted, these are small numbers, why the percentages look higher with 36 on the Nantucket route of equaling 8.6. But putting this together, we were down just under 1,000 vehicles for both routes combined, or 17.9%, which is probably a day of less than a day of parking in the summer, to put it in perspective. Trip summary. So for the month of January, we had 4 trips canceled and this is combined for both routes. 4 trips canceled for mechanical, 16 for weather, 18 for trip consolidation. In the purple, we can see the current year percentage, and we can see the percentages from last year. And ironically, the mechanical percentage is the exact same as last year during January. Financial snapshot for the month of January. We had revenues of just over 6.2 million, which were down almost 127,000. We had operating expenses of 11.3 million, which were down 1.3 million. Putting this together, we had a net operating loss of 5.27 million, which is better than budget by 1,064,000. And we'll go into the details of what's making up these numbers on the next couple slides. On the revenue side, we can see the automobile being rubbed down, but we saw the Vineyard being down that substantial amount, and it's really the standard fare cars driving that down again, but the overall number as well. The freight was down for the month, as well as the passengers. The only upside on the revenue side is the rent revenue and the operations of terminals. On the next slide, for the month of January, on the expense side, maintenance was down 369,000. Most of that is timing, or all of it is really timing. We have the Island Home, the Iyanough, and Vineyard Haven terminal work are all down, and those are being offset by the some work on the Woods, MV Woods Hole was over budget by about 200,000. That's where the 369,000 accounts for. And general expense, what's creating that is a healthcare timing, 300,000 for when receiving the claims. And there's about $100,000 below budget in training, which we'll realize later on in the year when we just timing when the training is taking place. One of the other items we want to talk about in the vessel operations is the fuel expense for the month was down $92,000 for January. You probably won't hear me say that in the next couple of months. We were hedged. We budgeted for 291, but the actual prices in January came in at 236. Looking forward for the month of March, our executed strike price plus our premiums coming in about 240. So our strike price is 218. Yesterday it traded as high as the ultra low sulfur diesel went anywhere from, it was like 403, put in perspective, but significantly higher. But when you're looking at the futures market, settlement for April contracts are 356 of 2026. They were all over the place yesterday, but when you look out to April 2027, they're at 238. So the market seems it's more front loaded on the pricing for the next 3 or 4 months, where it's gradually, like when we look at October of this year, it's at 267 at current prices. So it's a big front loaded cost in the fuel, but we are hedged for 2026. And so any discrepancy in pricings will make up the difference on the settlement at the end of the month.
Hedged for all of calendar 2026?
26, yes. What it doesn't account for, if we have a blow up for the delivery price in Providence versus say New York, because sometimes, when you have some supply strain, the actual physical delivery is more than, is costing more than what is on the CME futures market.
That should be interesting to watch for the next couple months.
And so passengers carried for the first 3 weeks in February were down 234 passengers combined for both routes. The Nantucket route was down was up 275, while the Vineyard Road was down, 509. But I can tell you, because of the blizzard, I just saw the traffic numbers come out this morning, that negative 234 is going to change to almost 13,000 passengers for the month of February. Primarily, about 12,500 passengers, compared to last year on the Vineyard Road. Drive that number for that 1 week of, the storm. Because we had minimal travel Sunday, no travel Monday, no travel Tuesday, so it was quite a bit of time before we got back to normal. So you'll see that, but in the overall picture of the 2.5, 3 million passengers, it's a small amount in the course of the year to make up. Big storm. And then on the so for vehicles, and we'll see the same thing happening once we calculate the last week of February that we saw today. But the first 3 weeks of February on the Vineyard Road, for all vehicles combined, we're up, almost 500 vehicles, and the Nantucket Road was up 265. But we'll see that number drop, when the final numbers come out, sizably as well. So we'll see that number from plus 743 will go down to about minus 2,800 for the month. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding either the month of January's financials or the fuel hedging that we do.
Great. Any questions from the council for Mark? Report. We're seeing nothing on the screen, Rob.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's any particular explanation about January down Martha's Vineyard, both in terms of passengers and cars. Any idea why?
I know January was very, very cold. It was very cold, and on the weekends, a lot of where to put traffic now, so you have that issue. But I mean, one thing to recall about January is the how bitter cold it was compared to normal. February, we know we had that one storm where we saw the rebound for the first 3 weeks, and all of a sudden that storm just shut the gates off. But January was more the people not willing to travel. It was a factor in January.
And the fact that the net was better than expected is a reflection of timing?
That's the expense side, and that's mostly timing. So that's gotta, the revenue is down, but I think the expenses, we're gonna realize those expenses, like the Vineyard Haven project's running a little bit behind, so we know we're gonna, those expenses. The Admin home is in repair, we're gonna realize those expenses. We're gonna realize expenses on the IM, so it's just a matter of time when we thought we'd actually be incurring the expense in the budget, but actually when it's gonna happen.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Other questions from Mark? Thank you. Manager report.
Thank you. Good morning, all. We have a number of items to talk about in the manager reports. But first, I want to recognize all our staff that are here in the room with me. Obviously, we have Mark Rosen, we have Mark Amundsen, our COO, Sean Driscoll is manning the IT desk, Allison Fletcher, our shoreside operations manager, Janice Kennefick, our HR director, and of course, Stephen Coleman, our IT director, are in the room as well. So going into the ship repairs, I'll let Mark Amundsen address those.
Okay, we'd also want to bring Zach Lawrence over, who's on location in London, Connecticut, on the Nantucket, so. That would be bring you over. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks, Zach. Morning, Zach.
Getting there.
So we have our engineering and maintenance project updates. We'll start with the Monomoy. We're still working through the initial Coast Guard walkthrough and the work list that we received with the government shutdown and having not only the Monomoy but the Iyanough and Island Home in Fairhaven. We're working through Sector Southeast New England's inspector schedule. They have one employee furloughed and a recent retirement, so we're prioritizing each vessel to get the vessels into service on time. We're wrapping up the CCTV and security camera installation. Wi-Fi installation is complete. We're working on getting the vending machines in. getting the plaque installed and getting the vehicle and truck lanes painted now that we have some nicer weather. The Iyanough is back over at our repair facility, returned from Fairhaven Shipyard in her dry dock. We still have to replace some injectors on both generators. Our maintenance department is working on replacing the injectors and the turbos on the number 4 main engine. We have some passenger windows to replace. We have our company sea trial scheduled for the 20th of this month. Coast Guard COI and sea trial on the 24th, and her return to service is the 30th. And to just take a step back, this was the financial snapshot for the end of the dry dock over at Fairhaven Shipyard. We've got more of the final bills have come in. The total credits isn't as high as noted here at 76. It's about 45, but that's still and no change orders, so that still puts the project as a whole under budget. The island home at the time they put together the presentation. The island home was still at Thames Shipyard. She did travel back to Fairhaven Repair on Saturday, March 7th. And so the dry dock is now complete. And so our financial snapshot for the island home, 7 total change orders, grand total of $1.55 million, which is approximately 2% over budget. The Nantucket, I'm down here with the Nantucket at Thames dry dock. Still a little bit early on in the project, but we're getting all of our steel handled. We have some steel on the hull that we're replacing, steel in way of the snack bar and concessions area, and a water closet. But overall, the dry dock thus far is going well. Both the bow and stern doors have been removed this morning. I watched those come off. They'll be overhauled. Both main shafts came out. They're going to be overhauled. We'll get all new cutlass bearings. The propellers are going to be dressed and renewed. So she'll be in really good shape when she goes back in the water. And so at the time of writing this, with just the standard financial snapshot, at the point of this, there was no change orders received, so on budget. And then we move to the facility side. We have the Vineyard Haven Underdeck repair update. At the time of writing this, we're actually a little bit further along now. I'd like to report that we have 46% of the total demolition repair is complete as of today. Since the first change order to rectify the difference between the defect area and the repair area, we've only received 2 additional change orders for some cracks that were found that went a little bit beyond the initial repair area. But we're still, as of today, on track to for the scheduled completion date of May 8th. And just a couple photographs, just showing kind of the complexity of the project, managing tides, getting underneath the pier when the timing allows for to get the demolition work done. But everything has looked really good. Like I said, only 2 areas so far have exceeded the 6-inch repair area. So all the rebar looks in really good shape, and the rest of the concrete is really tight.
Before we go on, let me add, and on Monomoy, I see we didn't have the financial snapshot on that. We'll have it ready for the board meeting this next week. There were some questions we wanted to finalize on that, so wasn't comfortable putting it in there. But the only additional expenses there was crew expenses, that people are still working on the boat. And then those crew expenses will be applied to the reconstruction project until it's quote unquote redelivered to us for service. So while it's still in the area and getting prepped for service, those costs will still be associated there. We'll have a better breakdown of that this coming Tuesday. And then Zach, can you talk a little bit about the Iyanough? We have it on our list here, but we didn't have it in the presentation.
I did.
Sorry, you did talk about it?
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
No, he led to that.
Never mind. Never mind.
Zach, who's doing the work at the concrete work, the contractor? Or are we doing that?
For what? I apologize.
For the concrete work, sorry.
That's ACK. That's we have
Okay.
that contracted.
Great. Crack memory contract. All right, before we move on, an unintentional yet unforgivable omission. Peter Jeffrey, the chair of the Steamship Authority Board, is with us, and with us from the beginning, and chair of the IT steering committee. We had a meeting yesterday on that, which we'll get to shortly when we talk about the reservation system. But let's go ahead and move on to the Woods Hole renovation reconstruction project.
Thank you. That's Mark.
Yeah, I'll take care of that. Okay, so we're moving on to the Woods Hole construction project. Next slide, please. So the current status is the terminal building. It's weather-tight exterior finishes and nearing completion. Prep for the terrace concrete is underway. Mechanical, plumbing, electrical inside underway. Installation, interior ceilings is underway. We'll get some photos of all this coming up. Installation of stone flooring and wall cladding underway. The utility building is near completion. BDA system, and that's a communication with the first responders. Fire department is nearing completion. We're doing right now training with our crews for building commissioning and training and for all the equipment, HVAC, electrical. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now. Contractors addressing punch list items, and as I just mentioned, owner training is in progress. So the final part of this was getting our occupancy permit. And right now we're getting very close to that. Once all the training is part of that, the BDA is part of that. So these are all punch list items for that. Next slide, please. Okay, and upcoming milestones, exterior curtains, interior terrace concrete. And that gives exact dates. Teledata room is scheduled to be completed end of April. Building commission is scheduled for the beginning of April. Furniture and other equipment installed by the end of April. Contractors continuing to accelerate to maintain the construction schedule. Again, in the utility building, we just went over the BDA system. The schedule to be completed beginning of March, and owner handover expected middle of March. So you can see right now where we are with the budgeted for the project is 39.1 million, and our current estimate is 36.9 million. And with that, if you wanted to take any questions.
I have a couple, but I'll defer to the members first. Any questions for Mark on the Woods Hole building?
Can I just add one thing? I just want to add one thing. We recognize that we had promised the traffic circulation study, and we're still working on that. Unfortunately, there's still some questions that we have for our people. We should have that finalized very shortly, and I'm hoping in the next week or so. Unfortunately, it's with storms and everything else going on, we haven't been able to complete it right yet, but we recognize that we do owe it to the Port Council and to the board, and we're getting to that as quickly as we can.
You read my mind, so that's great. I think we still have some time on that, but it will be good for us, not only for us, but for the public. I know there's interest out there in understanding what that will look like well enough in advance. Mark, my recollection, one of the meetings was in Pencil, a Memorial Day opening for the terminal building. Are we still on track for that?
Yes, we are.
So that gives us round numbers 10 weeks from where we sit now. So, understanding, certainly the draft transportation and circulation, study and proposal pretty soon. So, we can digest it and share with the public, would be helpful. So, I think I would say if they're drafts, keep us posted for when they're, available.
Just to, to go on what Alex was saying, with the storm might have been for a duration of 2 days, but we had a better part of a week just getting the snow out of there. That set us back a good solid week in that.
Yeah, understand. My sense of urgency is no criticism. We all know what's on your plate, right? On a regular basis, right? The policy issues in the reservation system, which are really urgent pressing matters for for management and for the board and the port council. They don't take a break because we get, a 100-year blizzard, right? So, all of those things are happening simultaneously. I get it. It's just, I want to keep an eye on that calendar so we can have confidence when it opens in May, that it'll work. So, no, I totally get it. Excellent.
And I do stand by that. We do make a commitment when we get that traffic circulation working on that, we will take it to the public, to the bike coalition, the business groups, to the public and talk it through.
Yeah, that's great. So with that, any other final questions on the Woods Hole project?
I guess I'm just, I'd be curious, what questions are we gonna answer this traffic study? What's in other words, what are the without, going down a rabbit hole, just kind of.
I think the big challenge is looking at how do we get, we know how we get vehicles and trucks into the areas, how do we get them out of it? What's the best way, the safest way, and the less impactful to the entire neighborhood? How do we get vehicles and trucks off the boats and back up the road? That's I think, from my standpoint, that's the biggest question we need to answer.
Thanks.
All right, on to the topic of the day, the reservation system update, and then we'll get to some of the policy discussions shortly.
So we'll start with just a basic overall update for the project that Mark can run through as well.
Okay, so we're moving on with, this is a True North, Port Council status summary. And, presently, right now, we're working on solution design, we're working with the DIA, and, we're making, good forward progress on that. We've had town halls in Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Mainland, and 2, topic-based town halls. And also public feedback on the proposed policies, upcoming key activities, refine and approve the DEA solution design. Share second round of draft policies with the board and port council, and share procurement plan with the board and port council. Upcoming business decisions which are in process: procurement, integration and infrastructure, policies, website, data migration, terminal operation flow, pre-season portal process, and testing and training. And some of the key risks and issues and suggested resolutions: resource capacity, IT and operations, current policies unclear, undocumented, that's what we're clearing up in the first configuration, change management fatigue and staff training. And you can see we're still in the yellow area with our solution design area, because we're doing a lot of back and forth with the DIA. This is the work, this was scheduled and we expected this, so we're right now on point.
And I'll just add another point on that. We talked yesterday with the steering committee, we presented the budget. That was an initial budget, still kind of a draft form. There's still a lot of work to be done on it. We had a lot of questions from the steering committee, which was great. We're gonna go back and respond to those. We know there's some things we need to add in, some contingencies and some various other things. So it was definitely a draft. I think we proposed it as a proposed initial draft budget. So we still have work on it, and we're gonna continue to work on it.
Excellent. And we'll get to the policy, discussion,
a little bit later,
downstream, right?
So the next order of business right now is, now that we have, the Monomoy is getting ready to come online, we'll now have two backup boats, the Governor and the Sankaty. And, it's a high cost to maintain both boats. And so we're requesting, coming to the Port Council to request to go to market for either the Governor or the Sankaty. We put together a staff summary on that, and going through the numbers, so it looks fairly clear to me. And I know there's a lot of history in both boats, and I appreciate that, but unfortunately the Governor is just, I think she's timed out for us at this point. She can only run the Martha's Vineyard to Falmouth route. She can't go into Oak Bluffs. She can't go into Nantucket, or she can't go into Hyannis. She's also limited for weather, and once the waves get over 4 feet, she can't operate because you got waves coming over the off the bow and off the stern. So in our judgment, really, she's the boat that we need to let go. As painful as that is, and I appreciate it's painful to a lot of vineyards, and I apologize for that, but it's, when you come down to nuts and bolts, the Governor's boat, she's the least versatile of our backup boats.
And just add in from a risk profile, she has an anchor chain driven rudder system. I think on her final retirement, that will go directly to the Smithsonian. I mean, it really, it's a high risk, for our view. And she's had a tremendous career, but she's 70+ years old. And I think if you remember a few years ago, I sent the rudders out to Milwaukee to get line board drilled. She's just near the end of her, she's at her current life.
We shouldn't have age discrimination. That's my favorite boat.
No,
The neatest thing it is, because it runs, and it's one of the fastest boats that you have. And you don't have to turn around or anything else, just drive straight on and straight off.
But also from an allocation point of view, she carries a lot less cargo. When you're looking at a difference between, say, the Barnstable class of 5 cars, if you went up, looked at it from a full car point of view, of being able to have 5 more cars, that can represent over 2,000 cars per month. So it is a capacity issue. She does not have the deadweight capacity to do the other lifts, and it is just a tremendous boat. It's had its time, but it doesn't really fit into our allocations as well as the Barnstable class does now.
Isn't the decision between the Sankaty and the Governor?
Yes, but as a comparison, I mean, the Sankaty is a standby, both of them are standby boats.
Yeah.
But it's very hard even to, when you look at the Sankaty, which does somewhat fit in to the freight boats, but the Governor is a further step back. It has less than half the deadweight capacity of the Barnstable class. I mean, so it is a matter of moving freight. It is a matter of moving cars. It has been a tremendous boat for the authority. It was a great move to get that for $1 at some point in the past, but we just can't take that out place that into the system on a regular basis. It just doesn't make the allocations that the other boats make.
The carrying costs of having both boats are about $1.25 million just to have the boat in a standby status. So just having 2, that's a lot of money, and that doesn't include the berthing fees. I think the berthing fees are somewhere around $30,000 a month, just having her sitting there.
Right, and we had to place a boat in Fairhaven Shipyard this winter because there was no space available at the Fairhaven maintenance facility.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, I mean, the staff's, write-up and recommendation, seems pretty clear to me. I am the newest guy on the group without the history. I think family conversations about the elderly are always hard, but it's probably so I'm gonna see what thoughts and comments the Port Council has, and then see what we got.
Yeah.
Matt,
Hey, how's it going?
you good?
Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna sort of look at this the same as you guys are doing, but we got to look at this for each route. So once we get our vessels sort of back into the system, meaning the Monomoy, once that comes on and we start becoming normal, and those three boats become the Katama, the Gayhead, and the Sankaty. That's how I look at this stuff. They're the new boats that have different names and they're a little bit bigger, but it's the same juggling that's going to end up happening. But the Sankaty has great passenger amenities, the seats and the tables, easy to load, doesn't have the house. It's a great spare boat, especially right now, like it's parked in Hyannis. It works really well parked in the sort of jiggled over in the fast boat slip. It was used once during the storm obviously that wasn't predictable, but it did help us with the electric company, the Splund trucks, and all that insanity that happened over here. But it also serves as a really good backup when there's a problem. That boat can be, just simply put into service with the crew from the other boat when it happens, and I see a use for that boat beyond just as a backup. And I know that you guys, I'm not supposed to talk about this because it's not on the agenda, but I know we have a plan to plug that in a little bit coming up in the schedule in the next few months because of the Monomoy not being quite there yet. But that's just one instance. There's going to be others. I know that the reservations people hate that boat because it's 7.5 semis. The way that boat was lengthened, we created a kind of an anomaly on the deck space, but that's irrelevant now because that service will be whatever that boat runs will be either a backup, emergency, or something that can be managed through reservations in regards to that. Also, the other issue, I think, and Mark can chime in on this a little bit, Mark A., with the shipyard situation now, and how long that's going to last, we don't know the answer to that, I don't think. It's good to have this boat around because we're going to have weird dry docks, I'm assuming, if this continues, with timing issues not being as easy to set up the way it has been when Senesco was open. Would that be accurate statement, Mark?
Yes, I think when we have used that boat, especially for having that positioned in the night berth in Hyannis, it's an immediate jump-in replacement if we have an issue.
Yep.
Either there or also, we're not that far away from bringing that back down to Woods Hole and jumping in there. So the idea of this, having a standby boat on site is definitely a positive for the authority.
Yeah, and I was going to say that you got your Woods Hole backup is when we're running the Iyanough, and you have that real slip now, unlike the old days with the slip with the lee side slip, I used to call it. A lot of us did. So that's great. It's going to back up over there, and it can run down here in an hour and a couple hours, whereas in the past it had to come out of Fairhaven to come to Hyannis. That's like all day. So this is a positive thing for the short term until we decide what we're doing with our next class of vessel and all that, which is going to take some time. And I look forward to that as well. But I think this is the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Eric, I see your hand.
Good morning, all. It seems like, the decision to, in the direction you all want to move in is a relevant one, but I'm always worried when there's discussions without a real risk analysis, in any paper to, do proof of concept. And when you are looking at kind of deleting an asset, It really should be promulgated by numbers. And the discussion is solid, but it's not backed up with anything. It's all opinions, basically. So my question is, have you done a risk analysis? And if so, have you shared it with us? I've been terribly busy these days, so I don't know if I missed that or not.
Well, we had marine safety consultants go aboard both of the vessels to do a final inspections and also a value assessment of the boats, and their response was similar to what I brought up with the risk of the rudder system on the Governor is a high risk. And so we have done that. I believe that we have enough history, with these boats to really have a good understanding of the pros and cons of them. And but if it's worthwhile to do further risk analysis on it or project updates, we can do that.
Yeah, I just, I was listening to Nat and listening to volume and, positions, where you would have the vessel, and standby, things like that. Dollars and cents, effective logistics management, things like that. All good questions. And I'm just curious if we came to this conclusion internally based on a real, kind of objective risk analysis. And again, I think you're right on with your decision, but you know how it is with the public. If we have a hiccup, we don't want to be accused of not doing our jobs, right? And opinions are great and they're valid because we all have a lot of experience, but you really want the data to push this decision, I believe.
So Eric, you think that data could reach a conclusion that we would keep the Governor and sell the same after the analysis that we've gotten? You think that?
Do I think so?
Yeah.
My gut says no. But I also know that the folks on the Vineyard absolutely love the Governor, and it's been consistent. It's been rock steady. I have not heard everybody say they love any of the other vessels, but I have not heard anybody say they hate the Governor. Not once.
Well,
I can explain that.
That calls for an emotional analysis, not a financial analysis.
No, it's not emotional. It's people. It's your customers are saying they love this vessel, and I don't want to set anybody up for failure, especially the new guy. Right? We've really got to do our due diligence, and frankly, it would take a couple of days to write this up based on the marine safety consultants report, some logistics reports, volume reports. You have all the data. It's just grinding it. I think it would be pretty straightforward.
Now I see your hand back up.
Yeah, my hand's back up because I understand what Eric's saying. I have to deal with this stuff with other positions I'm on over here when somebody has confusing statements that are not. You can get into all that minutia stuff with all kinds of things. This is not that complicated. This boat can run in any time of year from any dock and carry passengers and fill a void or fit a need that we have right now.
You mean the Sanctity when you're speaking?
The Sanctity. Right? I'm sorry.
I
understand the nostalgia. I've been through the whole Islander issue. I remember the Knobsco when it was side loading. I remember when we took the Nosh on and put a front door on it. Yes, I remember that, folks. Yes. And it was pretty cool how it worked. And changed the name from the Nantucket to the Nosh on in 1974. The nostalgia is real. Okay. We hated the Eagle over here when it first came over, but boy, do we hate it when it's not here now. I mean, that is the love affair of Nantucket is when when's the Eagle coming back? When's the Eagle coming back? The Nantucket has gotten narrower every 10 years. Every time we do something on the freight deck, it gets a little narrower. And they have their boat. They have the MV, which is really the Nantucket, a little wider, 10 years newer, and 20 years newer. And I mean, we have to go through this. I mean, it is unfortunate that the boat has become sort of special, but it's not, it just doesn't, if we have to pick, we have to pick the Sankaty to be the one we keep because of its abilities. And also there's a future use for that boat potentially in some parts of the season over here too, that we've discussed offline about, you know, running a single crew 5 days a week and having the other boats on their regular schedule, non-hazardous. There's some things that we can do to make things better and more efficient and at certain schedules. The other thing is I want to ask Mark, what about the engines and the gearboxes, Mark?
Well, they're I'll say fairly young still because the boat was repowered.
You're right, I know. I'm talking about the whole Sankaty swap thing that was the original plan. I mean, if that boat has value because it may have a market somewhere that is specific to it, that might be worth just leaving it the way it is and let it go with those engines and gearboxes the way they are, as long as the Sankaty can continue to run for that amount of time we assume it's going to.
Well, they would have to do a real deep engineering evaluation on that because there are some items, you know, it's overhauling a 40-year-old vessel. Now,
Right.
having said that, the machinery in it is operational, and
Yeah.
as long as we keep up with our preventive maintenance program, the Sankaty is running quite well.
Yep.
As far as the machinery point of view.
Yep, that's what I figured you were going to say. I just wanted to throw that around because that boat, that you know, there's someone out there that needs a boat like that, and also it drafts a lot. It has a deep draft, so that's the other reason it can't work over here, regardless of the beam. So, okay, thank you.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Greg. One quick question, then we'll see where we are.
Yeah, I had a quick question relative to the history of backup or reserve vessels. So it seems that currently there's two, the Governor and the Sankaty. You know, I'm not familiar with the history going back. Are we going to, we're proposing one vessel. Does that leave us shorter relative to emergency backups, or you know, how does this compare if we liquidate one vessel compared to historic reserves?
Well, I believe that in the past, we have been operating with a 10-vessel fleet. With the acquisition of the 3 freight vessels, we've actually bumped that number up up 2. And that's what we're talking about, is reducing it to get it down to 1. We just don't have the capacity to dock these all in Fairhaven shipyard anymore, which we have in the past, which was part of, you know, it's $30,000 a month just to, you know, have being able to put them pierside in a standby position. Just like that, also last year, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, we had very limited use out of either of the boat, not the Sankaty, but the Governor last year. So that was kind of in the part of the decision making. You know, we just don't have the availability to put this boat into service in a regular basis, but in backup service, it's you know, when we look at, you know, costs, which we always have to look at, it's just it's very difficult.
But I would say, in my experience, you know, we sold the Katama and the Gayhead, and it was basically replaced by the Queen and the Barnstable. Now that we have the Monomoy, to go back down to our historic level of boats, it's one more boat needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Just to level set where we are right now, staff has asked us to make a recommendation to the board to market the governor. I don't think from any scenario from what I've heard and from the comments of the council that there would be any logic to selling this entity instead, right? So I guess it's either to authorize the marketing of the governor. It is to conduct the data risk analysis that Eric asked for, and then subject to the outcome of that, have the marketing or do not. So I don't know what the council members' opinions on those three options are.
Just a little bit more from a discussion standpoint, picking up on Eric's point, I think all the information is in the package here. There's 21 pages of information. There's the two surveys, one for each vessel. There's the synopsis. So I think that, the getting to what Eric's asking for is a pretty easy step. I'm like Eric, and several of us have subject matter expertise. I can read this and we pretty much come to get the information I need to take a vote. I will ask just a question from the perspective of the survey, and that is both boats are approximately equal in value based on their analysis. What's the likelihood of actually selling the governor and getting any money for it? I mean, it's not a lot of money, so it isn't a factor really in this decision, but I think from an eyes wide open perspective is there likely to be a market for the governor out there because of its age and, its uniqueness, if you will?
I mean, the other analysis is the utility of the Steamship Authority, and I think unquestionably this entity has vastly more value than the Steamship Authority, regardless of what value we might get.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that on the table is the question of, what's the likelihood of selling it for $325,000? Not that that's a factor, a final factor in this decision, but it's represented that somehow we're going to have some value in it. That it could be that it has to get dragged to a brickyard. I don't know, and that costs money.
Yeah, we haven't done a survey as far as what the market looks like out there, to be honest.
Well, obviously the surveyor,
that's what they feel it is. I think, there is a potential market for it in the Caribbean. There are a number of smaller car ferries down there, companies that could operate it, that could want it. But on the same token, just being recently at the Passenger Vessel Conference, we know that there's a large national-wide operation is selling a lot of their dinner cruise boats.
Right.
So it's kind of pushed the market down a bit on used boats, and it's affecting all used boats. So do we get that money? I honestly don't know if we can get it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that question was out there.
All right, well, so rather than pushing this off another month and change, if you think that risk analysis that's been suggested can be done in time for the board meeting, yes or no? Board meeting's next, is it next week?
It can be. Yeah, it should be good. We'll put something together.
All right, well then, I can't make the motion. Terry keeps reminding me of that. So, I will, entertain a motion, to recommend to the members, subject to the results of the data risk analysis, discussed here, subject to the outcome of that, if there is nothing inconsistent with the, staff recommendation that.
I think you still have questions by John and maybe Greg. I think before we do that, yeah.
John.
Actually, I was listening to your motion. That was what I was going to say. I think I'm in agreement with about 80% of what you're saying so far. So maybe you ought to just complete the motion.
All right, Greg.
I'm sorry, it was inadvertently hand raised from my previous question.
So where was it?
We'll make a motion to move forward as you proposed.
I don't think he was complete yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'll try again. I will entertain a motion to, subject to the outcome of the data risk analysis discussed here, that we recommend to the SSA board to authorize the marketing of the MV governor at their next meeting.
I'll second that. I'll make that motion. So moved, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, John. John
I'll
makes the
second it.
motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Nat. All in favor?
Veneer, aye.
You want to abstain?
I'm gonna vote with my head instead of my heart, and I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay, thank you. John?
Cahill, yes.
Nat?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And Gordon's an aye as well. Thank you, everybody. Good discussion on that. And now on to the license request for the Helen H.
So we've had a request from the Helen H, who did a one-off license last year. They requested to have a license more regularly between Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. And I failed to mention that Terrence Keeley is here as our counsel. I'll throw it to him to talk about the Helen H license.
Special guest, so.
Thanks, Alex. As Alex was mentioning, back in October of last year, we got a request from the principals at L&H Offshore Fishing Corporation, which is over in Iyanough, to run inter-island ferry service for folks from the Vineyard to Nantucket to attend some sports activities. We weren't able to charter one of our vessels, so it was a good fill-in. It was a one-day charter. We entered into a license agreement with the board's approval. The L&H paid a $2 license fee per passenger. Recollection was there's about 94 passengers, I think, back and forth for that one day. And it was well received by the folks on the island. And following that, we received some additional inquiries from the L&H at the end of the year with everything that was going on with people coming and going and new general managers and so forth. We had I got around to the inquiry. We appreciate the L&H patience with that. I'll try to project it for occupier on there. And in any event, so we took a look at it. We received another request at the beginning of the month on the 3rd. And they're proposing that they redo this type of inter-island ferry service on the 4th of April and the 4th of May. They have 2 trips coming up. There's also an indication that they want to continue doing this into the future. But we have advertising requirements in our licensing policy. We have a hearing requirement in our licensing policy. So we've arranged all those things. The ad will run March 12th and March 19th with a hearing on March 26th. And that hearing will be virtual and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we can get all the feedback we can from the public. But in the interim, what we're looking for from the Port Council today, because of the timing of all this, is to get a review and a recommendation for the approval of the April 4th and potentially the May 4th, I guess, depending upon how the review process goes. But I think essentially for the sake of efficiency, we could do April 4th and May 4th because Highline will pick up its inter-island service on, I believe it's the 21st of May. I checked in with the folks at Highline. They have no objection to this off-season inter-island service by L&H. They work right down the street from each other in Iyanough there, and they work cooperatively together. So there's no objection from Highline. So with that, what we're looking for today is an approval for the recommendation that we're making to the Port Council and the board, hopefully, that the authority enter or the general manager enter into a license agreement with L&H Offshore Fishing Corporation to allow to provide inter-island passenger service to these scheduled events on April 4th and May 4th, respectively, in exchange for a license fee of $2 per passenger for each leg of the voyage, plus any applicable embarkation fees. And we talked to L&H about the requirements for the embarkation fees. They're indicating that they will be carrying a sufficient number of passengers to collect embarkation fees. They're aware of the statute, they're aware of the requirements. And so we'll follow up with them, assuming that the passenger numbers, exceed the 100 requirement. So, any questions on that?
License fee comes to the Steamship Authority, embarkation fee goes to the municipalities?
Correct. Correct. And my understanding is that it's, they're gonna run between OB and the Nantucket boat basin again. Same route that they did back in October.
All right, questions, thoughts from the council now?
Hey, thank you, Terry, for this. This is, again, this is not like, this is helping sports teams. This is not like somebody's making money and this is because of this is actually a really smart idea. And I didn't know anything about this until the last time we talked about it. I didn't even know this was going on. And this helps the inter-island games work because they don't work. I mean, there's you can't get to the Vineyard from Nantucket anymore. Like, it doesn't make sense anymore to get there. You have to go around the world to get to the Vineyard. And it's nice to have this because the Highline Inter-Island, which has increased over the years from the original way it used to work, whether I'm not talking about when it was slow boats, I'm talking about when it was one trip a day with the fast ferry until the Sea Streak era entered into the equation. And this is just, in my opinion, they're just helping the island's schools. So whatever we can do, Terry, I know you have to follow the rules. Can I ask Mark a question through you, Mark Rosem? Do we pay license? Don't we have the student sports team rates exempt from the licensing agreements?
Yeah, in Highland, I gotta look what the exemptions are, but there are exemptions in the.
And I'm not suggesting Helen H can't do this for cheap because they're not making any money doing this. So it's a different situation. They're almost doing a favor to both communities to make this work. And there's a lot more sports programs now than there ever was before on both islands. So whatever we can do to make it make sense to them to do this and help the two schools is we should try to do. I'm not asking for something that's not, required. I'm just saying, let's keep that in mind, that this is a great service that they're providing the schools. So, and whatever else works during this, and parents, coaches, etc. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Nat. Yeah, that's helpful context. And the fact that Highline seems to have no objection to it, I think is also instructive. Other questions or comments from the council?
Just a question on, it refers to the Coast Guard inspection of two other vessels that are owned by this firm, but not specifically about the LNH. I assume that we can confirm that it's got proper.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
inspection, so
We have all their certificates of insurance, their COIs. They have requirements to carry up to 149 passengers. Yes, sir. They typically run boat operations out of Hyannis Harbor.
I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And if I may follow up to Mr. Lowell's question, there is an exemption for the school from Charlotte.
Yeah, to Hyannis. Yeah.
But they're not asking.
Correct.
The reason I brought that up, I should have gave you more. I'm talking about not just their licensing agreement, but as far as the embarkation fee. We brought up all these different things, and unfortunately, all this stuff adds up to money for the people paying it. So I just, it's temporary though. That's the thing. It's not happening all the time. So what it is, what it is. I'm just saying, whatever we can do to make this less painful for each island sports program is what I'm asking for. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Final thoughts, questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to recommend to the board to authorize the general manager to enter into a license agreement with Helen H. Offshore Fishing for services for scheduled events on April 4th and May 4th.
So
As
moved.
described in the memo.
Second, just one question, where is that boat coming into?
It's coming into the town dock and Oak
Have
Bluff.
they checked down, Harbor Master? That's the only question I have. Have they checked the water selectmen and the Harbor Master?
I believe, I seem to recall they said they had, but we'll double check that.
Yeah, I'll have to double check, Joe, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty sure.
that, because we did for the fast ferry coming in, from New Bedford, because they may have some
right,
fees or something else
Yeah.
that we wanna charge.
good point, yeah, I'll double check.
It's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I seem to recall we did, but we'll reconfirm.
Thank you.
All right, motion is seconded. All in favor, Rob?
Here, I.
Joe?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And I do, thank you, everyone, and thank you. All of the groundwork and detail on that. And now, the policy discussions that we've been having, to advance the reservation system, update. Mark, you think you can?
Mark Anderson's got it.
Yes.
Okay, so that slide deck up. So this is our True North, deck for the proposed policy updates for phase one only. And in this will be addressing deck space management, and that's the change to linear feet. Wait list, the specific tips before and after. Standby purchase, refundable, standby. Transferable reservations that must be named. Special programs, stacking discounts, and this is to really one discount per product. And lottery process for the bulk simplified. So we've been out to the town halls and we've brought with virtuals, you know, this exact presentation that we're doing today. So in the phase one Feb 2026 meeting, we had the deck space, so moving on. So we've been over this before, so basically with better efficiency using the deck space rather than having the 5 space 4, 3, 2, 1 space. Previously, now we'll be booking a linear feet to get a better efficiency of our decks on board the vessel for not just cars, but also freight. New system.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. With the new system, linear feet, more vehicles can be booked per lane. That's the premises for moving to this new type of tracking. Next slide, please. Okay, Alex, you wanna, since you're expert at this one?
Wow, okay. Yeah, so the new wait list system that we're having, is instead of allowing people to, you know, very expansive number of wait lists, we're restricting it to, 5 selections within 10 options. You'll have 5 options before and after your selected trip, and of those you can pick 5 out of those 10 selections. You can pick 5 to wait list on. And this again, the wait list and the standby list, this works in conjunction with each other. So this is the new wait list. This is the policy for the new wait list. You go to the next slide. The standby, we're still having Blue Line. We're still going to have these other options, but we're now giving passengers the option to buy a standby ticket on a trip that shows full currently. Currently shows sold out. And you know, the next slide. This is how they work together, that you can buy a standby ticket on a sold out trip, and then you still have the options to pick a wait list on five trips within a scope of 10, 5 before and 5 after. So this changes the option from people who don't see anything available for days or weeks at a time. They can actually still buy a ticket for the day they actually want to travel, and then get up to 5 more standby seats on that day. And we expect that it makes this more efficient. It opens up more spaces that people aren't just randomly selecting standby or buying tickets on dates that they don't expect to travel on. And we know that with the 30-day 7-day and 24-hour day allocations that open up, very likely the people will get what they want, or at least get within the day that they want.
And I think we'll run through all of the policies and then go back to see if there are questions on it.
Yes.
So moving forward, the new transferable reservations, and the way it was previously, it was that 3 of the 5 transferable Head Start reservations could be transferred later. And the new proposed will be all transferable Head Start reservation must be booked directly at the time of purchase. So at the time of purchase, you need to have the name of the person on that transfer. So again, 5 transferable reservations per customer, transfer directly to a person, transfer at time of purchase, and transfer once. Next one. Okay, so additional policy changes. We're looking to simplify the special program discounts. One passenger and 1 vehicle discount can be applied per booking. Currently, users can use stack discounts, excursion plus medical for a vehicle, for example. Next, only passengers who book multiple medical reservations can delay payment. Customers must pay for reservations at the time of booking unless booking multiple medical reservation at once. Currently, customers booking via phone or at the terminal can request a delay payment up to 5 days before travel. Next would be no deposit for commercial change accounts. Charge accounts. Updated cancellation fees will replace the function of deposits. Still work at proposed cancellation fees, and they will be at a later option period. We won't be addressing that at this time. Simplifying the commercial shipper pre-season lottery process, 1 deadline and 1 lottery. Currently, there's 1 deadline plus 5 additional lottery days for the late applicants.
So before we get into the second phase, if we go back to that last slide, I think to simplify the special discounts program, I want to clarify that this is not taking away discounts from people right now. So if you're an excursion passenger and you get the medical discount, now there's going to be, basically there'll be a slot that's a medical excursion. So it will be built in the combination discount. So this isn't going to take away anybody's discount. It's not going to make it any more expensive for people. It just makes it's a cleaner transaction. And then on the only passengers who book multiple, I mean, we do that now that people call Mashpee and they request it. It is something this is just kind of codifying that policy.
Yeah, Angela walked that through with us. From the committee. It's good to sort of standardize that, make everybody know about the policy. All right, for the council, I have a couple of thoughts, but let's see if anyone has questions on any of the policies outlined here as phase 1, which are the time sensitive ones that we want to move towards the board. Sorry, cut you off. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Allison is still in the room, right?
Yes.
How does this, what are we doing with the preferred space, Allison, in regards to I'm reading the last thing that Alex talked about, that slide there. Is the preferred space staying or is it getting
It's staying. It's just to be done differently, but not on the customer's end. It's more on the back end, that how it's going to be done. So there should be no changes for the customers.
I hesitate to ask this because I don't like meddling into the other islands' way of doing things. How do they do this? What the preferred space compared to us? Because is it the same?
Most of them will do it online, but there are people that will go down to the terminal and book it as well.
Okay. Because
we're trying to keep how our customers do preferred space as close to how they currently do.
That's my point. Thank you very much. That it's just,
you're very welcome.
And we fixed the preferred space in the last few years to add other boats into it, reduce the number of people down there at 4 a.m. and all that for the 6:30 for the following day, which is insanity, but we won't go there. So I just hate to see that the improvements that we've made get, askewed a little here. So that's all. That popped into my head when I read that. So thank you.
Great. Other comments, questions from the council on the proposed policy changes? Great. Well, it's I think it's been a fascinating process to watch. Sometimes I want to see what the graphics, you propose the graphics here, which I think explain exactly what the proposals are. Sometimes I want to see what a graphic of the current system would look like, but then I probably don't want to see that graphic. So the way it's been thought through, I think the way it's been certainly conveyed to us and to the public has been quite clear. I gather from conversations with staff that the public sessions that have been held, the town halls and all of that, this has generally been well received, probably not all of it, but more importantly, it's been understood by attendees, both the motivations for the policy changes, but also the outcomes and the efficiencies, both for passengers and for the authority. I think that we'll get to phase 2 at some point, but if there are no other questions or comments from the council, I'll entertain a motion to recommend to the board approval of the phase 1 policy changes in the track.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Oh, okay. Been nervous for a minute. So let's call the roll. Rob?
You're aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And we're missing Greg. He and I discussed, he had a conflict given I got at the meeting. And Gordon's and I as well. Thank you all again for all of the work, for the IT steering committee, Peter, for guiding us through all of that and really understanding what are pretty complex changes, but I think will be real net positives for the new system.
And I will say on phase 2, when phase 2 comes around, we have a little sneak peek of all the phase 2 policies. We're not finished with public interaction, so we have we're expecting to do a lot of general public interactions on the next phase of policies, as well as talking to shippers. And there's still a lot more conversations, and we're looking to get a lot of feedback. The feedback's been great, so we appreciate getting that.
A couple of new business items I got.
So a couple of new business items. The first is want to discuss the eligibility requirements for the Martha's Vineyard Blue Line. There's been a lot of requests, a number of requests I've received that the Blue Line should be exclusively for full-time island residents. On top of their discount and on top of everything else, they should be exclusive to them. We have looked at it on our side, and I think Mark and I have talked about it. About 20% of the full preferred program is non-island residents. So essentially, the Blue Line is 1 out of 5 cars is going to be a non-full-time resident. But that's not a decision for us to make. This is something that we need to put to the board council, to the board, to discuss how we move forward with that and what you would like from us to support any decision you make.
All right, so this is a discussion item only at this stage to get some feedback. I'm a little unarmed on participating in this conversation. I mean, sometimes not understood, but certainly not have utilized it. Comments or questions from the council?
One, it's only 20%. It seems that it's more than that in actuality. From what I've heard, is there any way that we could probably limit who is qualified to even use this? I know I've discussed this before, and I think Matt and I have, and John and I have, that on the islands, Nantucket has it, Oak Bluffs has it, Vineyard Haven has it, and now West Tisbury going, where we have a owner preference as far as your taxes go. That only comes to certain people.
Right.
We've got 4,000 homeowners in Oak Bluffs, only 1,400 have the right to get that. Should that be one of the qualifications? You have to be a voter and a resident. You don't have to own the property, but a voter or a resident. Now it's just if you own a piece of property on the vineyard, you're entitled to do that. And I don't think a lot of people that are not island residents, they don't know about the blue line. And once they see that this is one of the ways, instead of having standby, that they can use it, you're gonna see a lot more than 20%.
Right.
And I know I discussed that, I think, with Terry about the legality of that. And it's gone to our Supreme Court as far as the residential exemption goes, that is illegal to do. And that may be one way of doing it.
I would actually ask Allison or Mark to clarify what the qualifications are to be a full-time or part-time resident. And what we do, because we do go through a process to qualify people.
You wanna go back on that? So to be in the excursion program, you have to be an island resident, you have to be on one of the street lists, verified through the town. You know, the short version of it, have to have bills to prove that you do live there, are paying bills, while the preferred is more just I own property. I do have bills there, but I'm not out there full time.
License, registration, property, for the excursion, you need to have a car registered on the island and a license on registered on the island.
So,
The street license.
right now, I know there's a town official on the island that is in the process of moving. He lives in the island, but he hasn't got all his paperwork done yet, pushed over, but we have made, you know, there are exemptions, so. But there are stuff like that.
So for clarification, we ran the preferred space usage, not the blue line, for the last 5 years. On the Nantucket run, granted, of all the preferred space being used, only 2% of it is being used, not at the excursion fair.
That's what I was. Yep.
On the Vineyard run, it's 2.4%, so 97.6% of all the preferred spaces being traveled at the excursion fair tickets. So it's very, very, very high. As far as Coeur d'Alene, it's not the same apples and apples preferred in blue line space, but as the closest barometer to it, you can see how high that usage is for the excursion fair, where everyone who signs up for the preferred space and the excursion program know about preferred spaces. Well, it's on their application, question whether they read it or not, or understand it's a different issue, but it's available that way. That's the usage that we can specifically quantify of how it's being broken down.
The preferred spaces have the right to use the blue line.
Correct.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
But they probably don't know about it, because a lot of people even on the vineyard don't know,
I
really, and understand how it works.
Right.
From my experience, I do think preferred people do know about the blue line, because being down there on the docks in the past, I have seen a lot of out-of-state plates trying to utilize it, and before we had the, we currently have something in the system where it automatically will tell us if they're in the programs. Before we'd have to log in, look into the programs, look into their profile and do some digging. And a lot of times they were preferred customers, not excursion, but preferred customers.
Do you think because it's, a lot of people are now understanding that they get the greater usage?
Well, this is like 6 years ago when I was out there, so. But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, but as the word gets out there about it, people are gonna start relying on it more and more.
More, that's I think the concerns that people have, especially with summertime coming in.
So if we're gonna go down, is the first base we've been quantify it without a question. So for the blue line, we'd have to really either change the space that they're traveling in and run the data queries at the blue line space, or manually track it on whether it's an excursion fair or non-excursion fair, and then come back with data to validate it is or isn't what the usage is. So we can't say, well, how it's being distributed at this point.
And there's no way for us right now to enter, let's say you show up and you wanna go blue line, there's no way for us to enter into the system that you traveled on blue line. We just know that your ticket went ahead of whatever you were scheduled, so we'd have to assume that was blue line.
Yeah.
Would they be
Or-
doing that on the registration system, I don't know, the system?
We haven't really dived too deep into the blue line yet. It is on the top of the things, too. I've been trying to deal with the Nantucket standby.
But I know that the bigger people are asking, they don't wanna wait until the new system comes online, they're looking at it for the summer.
Right.
I mean, we know that from Mark's thing that this very small percentage of people use, small number of non-island residents use bird program. And we know that of the overall makeup, it's again, it's like 20% are non-full-time people, but actually who's using the blue line, that's something we have to go down and essentially do manually to check it. And pull out, get data that way.
Cause right now, when you check in a car reservation, it will pull up saying, yes, qualified, no, not qualified for blue line.
So if we know the reservations, we can do a simple query of what the fare type was that you get your distribution on, but we just need someone to capture for the data analytics, what reservations travel on that.
How long will that take to do? Could it be the next meeting or 2 meetings from now or?
It's wild.
Yeah, if operations can capture who traveled on it, we can work with them to
They're
get
gonna
that
have to
data.
manually make a list of everybody that traveled on it then.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I know I said I didn't have a dog in this fight, but I can't help myself. If we're all presuming that the utilization of blue line is only going to go up rather dramatically, right? Starting with a broader definition of qualifying versus the narrower one that I think, right? That risks diminishing the efficacy of the blue line over time and making it even more difficult to narrow that definition with.
What was that again? You read that, sorry.
If we start with the broader definition of.
Right.
of beyond just full-time island resident. The popularity of the blue line goes up.
Mhm.
The utility of the blue line may go down because of that. But then it becomes even more difficult to narrow the definition in the future, right? Because people have become not only used to it, but dependent on it, right? So that's just the counter argument that while we're thinking about this and what the purpose of the blue line truly is, whether now is the time to set a narrower definition, or not, that's the mainland direction.
Well, and I'd follow on, if we do try to do a data analysis over the next month, it's gonna be skewed towards full-time.
Of course,
residents, because they're not signed off.
Right.
So we really have to do it for multiple months.
Right, and the ones that you do see that aren't full-time island residents, it may be going over to check their house out of the storm or
Right.
make sure the pipes aren't frozen, so they gotta go over once a month or once every couple weeks just to check on their property, so.
The blue line utility in the off-season is low, right?
No, it's used a good amount. It's still used a good amount. Usually what it is someone has a reservation for later, they get done with what they're doing and they wanna go home earlier.
Right.
So they just show up and try to go home earlier. It's not that they might not have any reservation, it's just not, they got done faster than they thought they were.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, is that following up on Joe's comments, and this ties into last year's discussion on the budget with the excursion fare, the qualifications and the next round of policy changes, looking at who's qualifying for the excursion, who's using the excursion, how it's being used, first base, which should be really encompassing conversation of all the qualifications, the usages, and what's going
And
into
I
it.
do think we need to do a deeper dive into the excursion program and the qualifications, because I do know offhand that there are quite a few people that it's their seasonal house, but they know how to work around the system by they register one car on the island. They go out once a week to check a house or whatever, because they might live locally as opposed to like out of state. And we have to look at that too and try to see how we can button that up more, so.
And some people do it by, they'll pay one way and then they come back within the month to make sure they get the excursion.
Yep.
I know a lot of people that do that and they're scamming the system.
Yep.
Optimizing the system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there's always been people finding ways
I
to
know.
work through a system too, and especially how many loopholes do you want?
Right.
You're almost always fighting the last war when it comes to things. So,
Joe, looks like there's a few questions.
yes, sorry, I need to look at the screen more frequently now.
I listened to this conversation about the vineyard and I don't even know what to say, except thank you for keeping, just keep us the same, please. I mean, I think, isn't the goal to fill the boat? Like,
Yes.
and this is where we get into that. There's plenty of room and I can't get a reservation. I could, to me, I mean, I've never heard anyone say a non-resident got ahead of me on standby. Nobody even thinks about that over here. They just are the next person that's getting on the boat, like in standby, whatever.
That
Huh?
it's 2 hours between boats for you in the summertime, while it's half hour for the vineyard.
I
you
know.
And it's that has more of an effect of urgency on, I think,
Yeah.
the vineyard end sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it. I'm not even making a suggestion. I'm just making an observational point that it's so different, and you know, it's weird to hear this discussion compared to what we have. But it's interesting what Mark R said about the percentage of excursions is interesting. That's a telling story right there. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, Pat. Eric?
Yeah, I think, as the discussion was going on, there were kind of three questions that came to mind. What's the intent? How do we define that intent? What is the ultimate goal here? Who qualifies? And then when we started talking about who qualifies, somebody brought it up as a Supreme Court decision. I was a little bit taken aback by that. I thought, oh, okay, what's that about? Because not sure I understand that. And if there is a kind of a legal standard for somebody to qualify for this intended outcome, Terry, I think we need to have an opinion drafted as to how one qualifies under a legal standard. So those are my comments. I don't know, how to get there. I don't really have an opinion. You guys are really the experts. You do a great job. I love what I'm seeing, the evolution here. You're doing a great job. There's no question about it. It's just, if it can go wrong, don't let it. That's called Lemley's Law. That was the senior executive service mentor of mine from the Coast Guard. Great line. If it can go wrong, don't let it. So intent, who qualifies, and a legal opinion to support who qualifies. Thanks.
Good. Thanks, Eric. Helpful framing of the questions as the discussion goes forward. Any last thoughts on this? Some helpful guidance, hopefully for management on next round of that discussion. Excellent. Next new business. The next new business is really is the advertising. I was approached by an advertising firm who works with the various other ferry operations in the country. They work with. They signed a deal with Hornblower. They work with Washington State Ferry. They work with San Francisco Bay Ferry, Staten Island Ferry, and they basically these outfits outsource all their on boat and in terminal advertising space to this company. And the company actually comes in and we'll put signage up, we'll put screens up, and we'll manage all of the advertising, and then basically share the profits with the Steamship Authority. And the numbers are anywhere from 30 to 50% of the revenue would be shared with the Steamship Authority. It's not something we're ready to do quite yet. There's a lot of legwork we would need to do. Obviously, we have to put it out as an RFP. But we just wanted to check the temperature of what's the level of interest of doing something like that. Last questions? My recollection, just as another comp, I believe that's how Logan International Airport does all the advertising in the terminals. They outsource that. It's a pretty efficient way to do it. We would get to dictate all of the parameters about. What could be.
Yeah, just for some additional context, the advertising program is managed by me and my department. So we have an advertising policy that limits certain categories of advertising. Those of you who've been around for a minute might remember an ad by PETA that temporarily shut down our advertising program until it was resurrected. The dog crab incident in 2024 was. So this, the parameters are set forth in the advertising policy. There's no parameter in there that would stop a national advertiser from advertising that might compete with the vineyard business. There's no parameter in there, obviously, that would stop an organization like PETA from coming in. It's more content based than it is advertiser based as far as what the restrictions are. From a practical standpoint, it sounds great because right now those posters are all printed. My staff has to go out and lift and put them up and take them down, and it's very manual management. You know, the revenue projections are rosy because that's what salespeople do. Obviously, we have an attractive audience for people. The program has deliberately been kept small over the last 25 years that it's been offered. Thanks for agreeing with me, Nat. I was pretty sure I was right on that. So I mean, it's
you're doing great, Sean.
Because it's a manual process. It's sort of deliberately that's sort of a break on national customers just funneling like Google ads could be anything. So if there's a lot of pluses and minuses to it, but that's the history of the program now. Our advertising policy is pretty, as I've learned through the PETA thing, it's pretty firmly based on what we can do by law, and we can't be too much more restrictive than that. So once you open up a national channel to national exposure, then you get national exposure, right? So would I love to not have to send my people out to the boats every quarter to switch out ads? Yes. Would everyone love it? Maybe not. I mean, it would be it'd be a big change. So, but that's where, and they have, I've been in discussions with, I've been approached just like Al has been over the last couple of years, and it would be it would be a process and a relatively big change for how we've done things in the past. It isn't right or the right thing to do, but just for some context for it.
And I would say, we're not asking for us to go out and write an RFP at this point. Of course, before we spend any time researching this and looking at what San Francisco is doing or Washington State's doing, what Staten Island or MBTA is gonna have these on their ferries up there because they have a contract with Hornblower. So they're coming in there, they're coming on the New York City ferry. So they have, I'm sure they have some controls and some limitations of those. Exactly what, I don't know. Again, this is before we went down any kind of path here. We wanted just to check the temperature. Is it worth us exploring this possibility?
And if we can leverage that with some of our communication tools, where we're not expending on capital expenditures for that, that's another one. And are we, can we, in the RFR process, RFI, whatever you want to call it, could we put parameters in that X amount of time has to be for local business? Or maybe things like that.
Reserve programming for Steamship Authority directed. They would have put announcements on the boats running late or something like that. There's all those kind of possibilities in there. It's something we need to. We want to research.
Yeah, I mean, having done some previous research, like Washington State has screens for advertising and screens for operations, and they don't cross, right? So
you know which one to look for whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
But I mean, but yeah, I mean, we would have to, if any RFP, whatever it's gonna end up being, I mean, there's no way we would get it out this year, the earliest would be maybe we could get it into place for 2027, because we don't have the internal capacity for an IT project right now, which this is gonna take significant IT resources, and I feel Mr. Coleman back there agreeing with me. Because, it's gonna take a lot of wiring and tech backup, so this would be a long process, but like Alex said, it's a temperature check more than anything.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth the analysis, both of the addition and subtraction, right? The things that would be taken off your plate and the trade-offs, because life is only trade-offs, right? Nat, you have a question? Okay.
This is bringing back Grace's gigantic fight at Christmas Stroll with the magazine, and racking my brain thinking of the name of the magazine. I can't think of it. J. Crew. That's it. J. Crew. Oh my God. So that was like the worst thing that ever happened. But here's the thing. This is, Sean, you did a really good job explaining this. This is incremental. This is like, restaurants with steak and eggs back 40 years ago. We've grown from steak and eggs for breakfast now. Like everything's fancy and fluffy. But what is it's sort of like the billboard coming out of the tunnel. We've been talking about that for a long time, and I personally don't think we'd have one more passenger without that billboard. But that's been up for debate for a while. This is a little bit different than that. You're gonna get the nostalgic people upset about commercializing the steamship a little bit too much, maybe. But there is a way to find a balance with it, I think. I just don't know how to make that work with the public, with bidding and RFPs and all that kind of stuff. Jesus. I mean, it just gets into too much confusion. The MBTA is not a good comparison. The MBTA, people riding those trains don't think about stuff like this. They're just on the train. This is, the steamship is sort of ours. That's how people think. When you live here, it's sort of, you feel like you have an ownership, one little share in the steamship. That's how people feel. Okay. So whatever we do, we need to be tactful, but be cognizant of what people feel like about this stuff. Simultaneously, is it worth it? I know we need extra income. I'm all in favor of that, but I just don't know how far we go with it. But whatever we do, it has to be something that's tasteful with what we currently are doing now. So that's all I can say about that. Thank you, Sean, for your historic, you hit the nail on the head pretty well.
I wasn't even here for the J. Crew catalog, and I know all about it.
You were working for I remember you were around a little bit then, weren't you? Do you remember that?
No, that was, well, I'd have to check.
Not for the steamship, but you were involved in some stuff.
I was,
You remember that?
I was distantly aware of it.
Okay.
Much more so now.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sean. Any other final thoughts on advertising?
John, or John.
Sorry, John.
No worries. Well, no worries. I support what Sean and Nat had to say, but one thing we ought to consider as we do the analysis is to whether it's in Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, is speak to the business associations. There's one in Vineyard Haven, one in the Bluffs, one in Edgartown, and pull them into this, because I'd hate to see us show up signs and advertising, which is all about non-tourism related business for the islands and the Cape. That's it.
Yep, thank you. One of those trade-offs, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I don't think there's any, one just comment, Robert B. Hour, they were requesting the license thing. We did have a meeting with them yesterday. Try to clarify some of the traffic challenges we have in Nantucket. They were gonna go back and give us some further information, so hopefully we'll have that by the next meeting. I'm not sure we'll have it by the board meeting, but we'll have it definitely by the port council. We're trying to move that ahead as fast as possible. Excellent. Okay.
And just one more reminder that the preseason sale on high-speed detective books starts March 22nd and runs for 3 weeks this year. Thank you, Nat.
Thank you.
So that'll be underway. We're meeting again in April.
Excellent. All right, hearing nothing else, we've been at it for 45. Let's go to public comment, Sean, see what.
Yeah.
From both lines.
Mary?
Hi, and thank you very much, Mary Musakia. I have part-time resident in Woods Hole, and I just wanted to talk about the traffic study. I appreciate so much that it has been delayed. For anybody that was following the weather from afar, I understand the problems you experienced. With that said, I would strongly request that as you get public comment and you set your scheduling around the traffic study, you leave meaningful time to take the traffic study and the public comments and then make adjustments based upon public comments. I know it's a tight time frame, but I think it's very, very important for community like Woods Hole, I would assume for Vineyard Haven and others as well, but that traffic study has time to be adjusted based upon public comments. And as we talk about the concept of ownership, while a lot of people on the islands feel ownership for the boats, and I think that's wonderful, the people of Woods Hole feel a lot of ownership towards the nature of their community. And the changes that are happening as a consequence of this growth of the Steamship Authority. And so I implore you to give the time to take those comments. And one other comment on the advertising. Woods Hole also has a business association, and so I appreciated the reference to all of the ones on the islands, but be sure to check with the business associations in both Woods Hole and Falmouth, because they do exist, and it's meaningful to them as well. And then lastly, on the advertising, whatever policies you set up, please do not allow for exterior advertising at the actual site. Advertise on the boats, I'll leave that to everybody else, but the last thing we would want is to have signage outside in advertising in some way. I will speak for Woods Hole only, to see it there. And I forgot to mention, as you're looking at your traffic study, you've been talking a lot about your reservation system. Holistically, your reservation system has got to jive with your traffic, because that is how you will manage some of the traffic coming in and out. And so again, please jive your reservation system with what you think you're going to try to do on the traffic side. And I've made similar comments at the past, and I would appreciate these being taken into serious consideration. And I know you all do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Leon?
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to go back. Sorry, I missed yesterday's meeting, but when you talked about with the new reservation system, that at the time we're making the transfers, that you, if I remember correctly, you wanted us to use emails of the person we're transferring to. Is it possible to use a text? The reason why I say that is that a lot of people who might be transferring know the person's phone number that they speak to, and they'll be able to receive a text, but they may not know their email address. So I wonder if you could take a look at having the option for either email or text in that transferring process. Thank you.
That's a great suggestion, Leon. Thank you. Yeah, we'll look into that.
And Amy, Cody?
Hi, Amy Cody from Chilmark. I wanted to first thank Eric Dewicki for bringing up the idea that there should be a risk analysis done to support any decision of which boat to be sold. And I would add that it's not just because the public will be looking for it or the public will be looking to complain about it, but I think it's for good practice and good fiduciary oversight. So thanks, Eric, for that. The second thing is about the Blue Line. I'm a full-time resident on Martha's Vineyard, and I strongly support that the Blue Line should only be for excursion full-time residents, to really allow us to be able to get on and off, because we don't have a bridge, the island, when we need to. Every time I've ever tried to use the Blue Line, I've either been turned away or I'm sitting behind cars that have out-of-state license plates. So whatever has to happen to figure that system out, I would really encourage you to work on that, because I think it's only fair. And then the third thing is I wanted to bring up staging and the staging discussion that came up at the December 9th board meeting, staging neither Palmer or Gifford. Allison did a 3-page report, preliminary report discussing it and talking about pros and cons, potential costs. It was kind of going into the winter, so everyone agreed that there wasn't probably enough traffic to even do a preliminary trial. But she also said that when the 4-boat schedule begins in the spring, it could be a viable option to be running it during high traffic times. As we know, the spring is here, summer's coming, and I'd like to know more. I mean, it didn't come up today, and I don't know if it's going to be on the board agenda next time, but there's so many people in Woods Hole and Falmouth, as well as everyone who has to travel down that road and get stuck in traffic. And we know what happened last year. And construction on the terminal is not done. So the fact that we're not talking about it, we're kind of ignoring it, and we're not circling back to how it's going to work, doesn't seem right to me. So I just wanted to know if anyone has it on their radar as something that you're going to address. and how you're going to address it. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments. Yeah, based on what Eric said, we'll do a risk analysis. I mean, it was anecdotally pretty obvious to us which boat needs to go, but yeah, we'll definitely put something in for that. Again, we're gonna look into more of the blue line. As far as the staging, that's something I was not here then, so, but I'm not gonna use that as an excuse. I do recall listening into that conversation, so we'll revisit that and take a look at doing some kind of pilot program.
Thanks, Alex. And I would say if you go to the board meeting minutes from December 9th, it also has all of the comments and quotes from all of the different reps. Peter Jeffrey and Malcolm weighed in. And I know that Cahill and Salito have been very supportive of all of that too. So that's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That's all I have. Seeing no other public comment, anything else from council members? With that, then at 11:51, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Joe, second?
Second.
Matt? All in favor?
Oh.
Ross?
You're aye.
Joe? I am Jack. Okay.
John?
Matt?
Oh, Nat, sorry.
Aye. Thank you.
Tom?
Hi, good meeting. Thank you.
And Eric?
Aye.
Words and I. Thank you, everyone. See you all later.
Thank you.
Wrong.